Business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs, get your pen and paper ready and tune in Sundays at 1 p.m. for eVolution Strategies, Business Sustainability and Growth Simplified. You must evolve to meet the challenges of today's marketplace. This is the only show in the Philly metro area that walks you step by step through success factors that make or break your brand. Want some free advice? Call in Sundays at 1 p.m. to talk to your host, Carolyn Lighty, and a panel of experts for eVolution Strategies, Business Sustainability and Growth Simplified.
Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Lighty, and welcome to today's edition of eVolution Strategies. As promised, we'll be discussing digital marketing and why small business owners need to take advantage of digital advertising and customer engagement opportunities. The business as usual attitude just doesn't cut it anymore. Consumers are more knowledgeable than ever. They know exactly what they want to pay for it, and what your competitors are charging for the same item or service before they even make contact with your business or walk through your door. The average customer consults about 4 to 6 different sources of information before they make a purchase. The proliferation of so many choices breeds confusion on the part of small business owners who are just not well versed enough in advertising and marketing on the internet and mobile devices. Yet, 84% of small business and medium-sized business owners realize that they must enter the digital age. Still, 80% of them are still confused and cite that as the reason as to why they haven't progressed in the area of the digital media. Half of them are not even sure how they would determine if they're getting a good return on their investment. So today, my guest and I hope to bring the process of simplifying and demystifying the world of digital marketing to you. Today, joining me is Mel Taylor of Mel Taylor Media and founder of GetSmartDigital.com. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about his companies and his background so that you understand why he is so passionate about helping small businesses. And hopefully by the end of the show, you'll have a few tips and techniques that you can take with you and implement into your businesses immediately. Good afternoon, Mel. How are you today?
I certainly wanted to thank you for inviting me. And, you might think that you said good morning or yes, good afternoon. Since we're on the internet, some people are listening in the morning and some people are listening in the afternoon.
Well, that's true. We do have guests listening. I know at least several from the West Coast. So you're absolutely right. So let's get into the conversation a little bit about kind of simplifying this whole digital landscape for some of the small business owners that are listening to us today. First, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mel Taylor.
Well, I've been in media and communications since the very beginning. I went to Temple University for marketing and communication and got into radio after I graduated. Worked in radio and television and newspaper. And as I saw that media, well, it's a little tough in radio and TV and newspaper right now as the economy changes and digital communications sort of disrupts things. So I had to figure out a way of making sure my business of Mel Taylor had a good business, so I figured out this thing called the Internet. And I learned everything I could about the Internet while everybody else was sort of ignoring it. So I come to you today like a small business, Mel Taylor, and I got to tell you, Carolyn, if it wasn't for me trying to figure out the web, I don't think I'd be talking to you today, and hopefully I can share some best practices to the small business people on the listening on the radio today.
Well, a lot of what is scary about the whole idea of digital marketing is a lot of the terminology, the technology behind it, what is actually driving some of these things like the search engines, what drives social media, those types of things. So when a small business owner who is juggling so many things in their day-to-day anyway, now they have to decide that they, I want to get more customers, I want to be visible, I want to have a presence on the web, but do I need to be a programmer? Do I need to be a webmaster? No, not necessarily. Is that correct?
You're right. I think I use the word demystify. I use the word simplify often. But demystify might be the best way of describing what I do, and that means no geek speak. In other words, when I talk to clients, I won't use the word search engine. I won't use the words social media. I instead would use the words they're familiar with. And that would, in other words, instead of saying search engine optimization or search engine, I would say, hey, don't you want to be found when somebody is on Google looking for your business?
Exactly.
See, They get that. And if I talk about social media, well, you and me, most of us, we know what social media is, but it's really much more preferable to say, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could use Facebook to share the information about your business? So I always use the phrase, hey, man, when you work with me, no geek speak, because we're not technology people. We're just marketers. So we have learned to remove anything that's insider talk or geek speak, because that scares people, and they shut down, and then it's tough for them to embrace what you're trying to share.
You're absolutely right. And in order for them to embrace it, let's start first with maybe even a definition. When I think of digital marketing on a broad spectrum, I think about, having a presence, ensuring the performance, whatever that presence happens to be. And then, am I getting a profit? What is my ROI on having invested in these particular media? Would you agree that those are good areas to start with in terms of determining for our audience how to define digital marketing?
Yeah, you hit it right there, hit the nail on the head right there. How do I look online when somebody's looking for my type of business online? And then the second thing is, how do I track success? And it's really those two things that are so simple, but also kind of difficult if you don't have the right people or the right help to kind of guide you. And hopefully over the next hour, we're going to be able to talk about how to solve that problem about, well, what is a good web presence, and how do I track ROI or return on investment? Right. And I think we can accomplish that today.
I think if we even begin with presence, there are so many, certainly more than 70% of small businesses, I saw a statistic, that are not online in terms of having a web presence with a website. Does that alarm you? Does that surprise you?
Well, I've always heard numbers. It could be 50%, 60%, 70%, whatever the case may be. There's still an awful lot of small and mid-sized businesses that are currently not online. And if they're online, they might be online with a web presence or a website that is actually hurting them. What that means is that they're probably not keeping it up to date. Maybe it's not loading very fast on somebody's computer browser. Maybe it's information that's inaccurate, and that's a web presence that's actually a negative. So usually before I work with anybody, I always say, hey, before we try to do something good, in other words, put the foot down on the accelerator and start to barrel forward, let's make sure before we move forward and hit the gas, let's take our foot off the brake. What I mean by that is, let's make sure that your business is not doing something harmful online. Let's get rid of all the bad stuff first before we start adding the good stuff. And quite simply, what that means is, let's get rid of the bad stuff. Make sure you go to Google, a search engine, and actually search for your type of business and see what you look like online. See what an outsider sees. So when you put in your business name, or you put in your zip code and the type of service you provide, how do you look to that person who's doing research on your type of business? That's how you can tell if you look good or you look bad, and someone's going to move on to somebody else.
Or if you don't show up at all. Yeah.
And that certainly happens. And think about that. Yeah. That's like not being in the yellow pages.
Absolutely. And I was going to draw that correlation. I'm glad that you said that. Back when, as a small business, even 10, 15 years ago, if you opened your business, you knew you had to be in the yellow pages. You knew you perhaps might want to do some advertising in a newspaper or local, like a community paper or a local magazine. If you had a little bit more of a budget, you might have done some broadcast, maybe some radio or television, but, that's stepping up into the more medium-sized businesses. And today you have a plethora of options in terms of all the media that you could take advantage of, and more importantly, all the media that your customers are taking advantage of.
Yeah, so people use TV and radio and newspaper. They see billboards. All of that really still works. But a smart business will use traditional media, and traditional media is TV, radio, newspaper, direct mail, and billboards. And if they're smart, they use it to push people to a website, because the website provides deeper information, more information. You know, the ability to look at a video, the ability to download a menu. So I'm a big proponent of using a mixture of old school media and mixing it in with the best new stuff. And that's probably the best way to look at it, that maybe some geeks, maybe some hardcore digital geeks are always telling you, put all your time and money into the web and get rid of everything else. But that's not a smart move.
No.
You really have to find some kind of a mix or a hybrid. And we encourage people to very gently, you know, slowly mix in digital with their current marketing plans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even the big guys, if you look at the larger corporations, they're not looking at just one media in terms of getting their message out. They are, you know, looking at the traditional and the emerging media and combining the two to get their best bang for their best buck and to generate more business. So that's one of the things that we want to do on perhaps a smaller scale for some of the local small businesses. But let's talk specifically about the website for a second. So if I'm a business, I don't yet have a web presence at all, other than maybe some free listings out there that you might get. What are the components of a great website, even a beginner website? What are the components of that?
Yeah, what I recommend that, number one, don't think that you have to spend and hire to have a big, giant website. All you need to get started is a one-page website. You get started with a one-page website. It's kind of like an online brochure, and over time you can add to it. So just to say it one more time, don't think that you need some big, giant, awesome website right off the bat where you spend a lot of money and time. You can work your way up to that. But the beauty of the web is you can build a one-page site for the time being, and every time you have an idea or a little more money, you can add to it. That's the beauty of the web. And my recommendation to everybody is to spend about $12. And the first thing you do is you get a domain name or a website address, because we're going to do our best to not to say the word domain. We're going to try to.
That's right.
I'm going to try to take my own advice, which I always forget, and instead of saying the word domain name or URL, we're going to say website address. And the cheapest, easiest way of getting started is and I'm not promoting GoDaddy.com, but they are the easiest place to find a website address at GoDaddy.com, and for about $12, you buy that website address, and they also give you a one-page site for free, and they also give you a professional email address. So if we were going to buy a brand new website for eVolution Radio or Evolve Marketing, we would just go to GoDaddy and buy that, and our email address would be info@evolveradio.com, and that's much more professional than evolveradio@AOL or evolveradio@Hotmail or evolveradio@Gmail. We always want to look professional. So my endorsement for anybody looking to quickly look good online is buy a domain name or a website address, and for about $12, you could have one page with your information, your phone number, your directions, a photograph. That's a good start for about $12.
And again, I want to simplify. That's the big word of the day, is to simplify. So if we're looking at buying a web address, let's put it, since we're not going to use the word domain, what kind of address should I buy? Should it be my company name? Should it include my location? In terms of say, should it be ABC Clothing, or should it be Children's Clothing in Wilmington? What kind of name works best in terms of returning results from search engines?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because everybody thinks, or some people still think, they have to put their actual business name in that website address or domain name. And sometimes your business name does not have keywords that somebody would use when searching. Exactly. So you would try to put keywords, and those are search words, people that type in a word to find a product. So if you are a shoe store in Wilmington, you would try to get the word Wilmington and the word shoe into your website address. That would be beneficial. But some people think that if my name is Joe Murphy and I have a shoe store in Wilmington called Joe Murphy Shoes. Well, they put the word Joe Murphy in that domain name. Sometimes that will actually hurt you in a search. And having keywords of location and keywords that feature the actual product or service, there's a huge amount of benefit there. So do think that is something a little deeper for maybe a future show, but picking the right domain name or website address is really important. And you know what? That might be a subject, a topic for us to do in a upcoming online webinar someday soon.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and that's why I wanted to bring that up. Is because there are a lot of I've met with a lot of business owners, and automatically they do think that my web address should be the name of my business. And as you're saying, I wanted you to bring out the fact that might not be descriptive enough to return you in the top of the search results when someone's looking for your product. So
let me just put a finer point on that. In addition to trying to do your best to put keywords in there, try to keep it to the minimum amount of words. Also, try to make sure that it is easily read or easily remembered. In other words, if you have a complicated title or phrase, people may not remember how to spell that. Is that plural? Is that singular? In other words, you really want to make it as simple and easy to spell and easy to remember as possible.
And that also speaks to the evolution even of that small component of a website, what to name it. Because back in the day when people started creating websites for their businesses, it made sense because they were basically looking at it as being their online brochure, their flyer. And when you see a flyer, it generally would have the name of the business. But now because of the algorithms, and there's one of those terms that we can talk to and simplify for our listeners, but because of the way the Google or search algorithms perform, having it become more specific to the product or service that you're selling is the way that it's going to help improve your rankings when someone's looking for it.
Right. Very good. You're right.
Okay. So that we've talked a little bit about some of the components that a website should have. You talked about it being only one page. Let's talk a little bit about the content and relevancy, being relevant in terms of our design and development of our site.
Well, like we said, at the very least, we want to have at least a one-page site to get started. Never try to do too much. Do one page at a time. And sometimes we call that a landing page. A landing page is focused on one thing and one thing only. And assuming that many people listening today are small businesses looking to get started with a good website or a solid start of having an online presence, on that first page or that landing page, sometimes we call it a home page, what should be on there very clearly up front and above the fold or above the scroll, what that means is people see it on their screen right away. They don't have to scroll down to see important information. The first thing they want to see is the name of your business, the location of your business, some place that says how to contact us, phone number or an address, and the ability to put your email address in there so that maybe you can send me some more information. And a photograph or an image or a graphic that represents your business. It makes the person say, oh, I landed on the right page. This is exactly what I want. Make them feel comfortable that they've actually arrived at the right place.
Okay. And what do you feel the overall purpose is for the website? And that sounds like a very basic question, but there's a reason for me asking. Why do I have a website? What is it there for?
Well, having a website is why should you have a website? Well, that's the same. That's the same answer that people had to figure out many decades ago when they said, "Well, why do I have to be in the paper? Why do I have to be in the yellow pages?" Basically, the web is where people do research. They vet or they determine who should I call for this product or service, and they're going to look for that product and service, and they hope they can find you. So once they do find you, if you're lucky enough that they can find you and they go to your page, now they're figuring out whether they should pick up the phone and call you. Now, that's the thing about it. If you look the other way and think the web's not important, well, guess what? Somebody else who is a competitor of yours, let's say you've been in business for 25 years and you're the best at what you do, but you don't do the web well because, you have a chain of beauty salons. And you have ignored the web for a long time because you say, well, I don't need that. It's all word of mouth for our beauty salon. Well, guess what? A new beauty salon could open up, and they have a horrible reputation. They just got started. They really don't have their act together, but boy, do they know how to market themselves online. I can assure you that brand new competitor is going to build up their list. They're going to get calls, and they're going to basically steal future business from you because, well, people looking for a new beauty salon or someone to do their hair, they're going to go online. They're going to find that newbie, and they're not going to find you, even though you're much, much better and you've been around for 25 years. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a web presence the same way you have to be found in the yellow pages. The same way you have to have a sign in front of your brick-and-mortar store. The same way that you have to have lights in front of your business. So this is really business 101, but mm-hmm. because technology talk or geek speak has been imbued or has been a part of the web world for too long, traditional businesses kind of shy away because they don't know how to keep up with all these weird words like search engine optimization and social media.
Yeah. One of the things that you said that I was trying to lead to was a call to action. When they get there, it's nice to be informed, and you want to be able to inform people about what it is that you have to offer, your quality, your expertise, you're building credibility with them. But the next thing is that you want to be able to have a call to action, convert them into, so are they going to pick up the phone? Or are they going to actually make a purchase on your website? They need to know, okay, I'm here now. What do you want me to do? How do you turn that into dollars?
A call to action is vital in any type of online marketing campaign. On a web page, this landing page we were talking about, a one-page site, the call to action could be a couple different things. It could be call this number right now. That's a call to action. Mm-hmm. Another call to action could be click here to download our brand new menu. We're a new Jamaican restaurant in town, and we want you to know what we have on the menu. Click here to download the new menu. But before you can download it, you're going to have to like us on Facebook, or you're going to have to give us your email address. Mm-hmm. What a great way of building a database or a customer list. Mm-hmm. Another call to action would be, hey, would you like to see a little virtual tour of our brand new restaurant featuring Jamaican delicacies? Well, we videotaped a walkthrough of our new restaurant, and we went back in the kitchen to see the chef serving up and creating one of our signature dishes. Click here to watch the video. But before you click to watch the video, give us your email address so we can send you a coupon to try us out on a Monday night. Those are call to actions that provide value to the viewer on your site. And as a business, you're forcing people to watch the video because they can get a coupon, or you're getting the reader to give up their email address so you can send them weekly specials of what you have on the lunch menu. So those are call to actions that allow you to identify ROI, or return on investment, something that's tangible. It's proof of success.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, we're going to be taking a break shortly, and then we're going to come back and talk more about performance. How can I generate higher performance for my website? How can I ensure that people are going to actually come and visit my website? So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with more from Mel Taylor of Mel Taylor Media.
Welcome to Wilmington, Delaware. At Preservation Initiatives, we bring beautiful lofts to you. The recently renovated lofts at 400 Market Street are a must-see. A part of registered National Historic District. Featuring spacious floor plans, custom glass windows, solid surface countertops, stainless steel appliances, custom lighting, wood flooring, large closets, pocket doors, sunny interiors, high ceilings plus beautifully detailed trim molding. Enjoy the sights, sounds, and tastes of Market Street. Just a short walk from the Wilmington riverfront, featuring family-friendly places to enjoy, with plenty of restaurants, entertainment, and other small-town conveniences. Wilmington, Delaware, in the middle of it all. Reserve today. Preservation Initiatives. Urban revitalization through historic preservation.
Preservation Initiatives is a wonderful, wonderful gem that we have here in the city of Wilmington. Don McGinley, its founder, has been developing historic properties since 1979. He's had properties in Boston, Miami, Philly, and now Wilmington. If you want to contact Preservation Initiatives in reference to any of the residential or commercial properties, please call them at 302-543-7565. That's 302-543-7565.
You're listening to WFAI 1510 AM. Welcome back to this week's edition of eVolution Strategies, Business Sustainability and Growth Simplified. If you're just joining us, get your pen and paper ready for more free advice from Carolyn Lighty and her guests.
Good afternoon and welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are talking with Mel Taylor of Mel Taylor Media and GetSmartDigital.com. Mel, we were talking before we went to break about, how important it was to have a website, some of the components that they needed to have. Of course, we can't cover all of that on an hour's show, but just touching initially, I think, on some of these basics will help us set the stage for future shows where we can dig in more deeply on an individual topic. I promise that when we come back, we were going to talk a little bit about how to get people to now come to your website. How do they find out about you? It's kind of like having a party and, wanting to invite lots of people. But now how do I make sure that after I went and spent all this money to cater it, how can I make sure that people actually show up at my door? So how do we get people to show up at their door?
Well, that's what they say is the $64 million question. But it comes down to something it's a phrase, and it's called content marketing. It's called content marketing. And what that means is that you use content to share with the world, to position yourself as an expert. And when you share that information, kind of like the radio show that you're doing today, you're sharing information for free to people interested in this topic. We hope that somewhere in the future somebody might want to reach out to you and hire you or tap into your services. And what you're doing right now on the air is called content marketing. In exchange, that you hope that a small percentage of those people will buy something or compensate you in some way down in the future. That's just the way the world works. You have to give it away before you get a little bit back, and that's a good business model. Mm-hmm. So content marketing on the web is blogging. And the word blogging comes from a phrase called web blogging and kind of like an online diary. But blogging just means you write a paragraph or two every so often about your business or your industry. Or let's take that Jamaican restaurant example. Wouldn't it be great that once or twice a week you wrote about a new spice or a new way of preparing a dish? And what you're doing is you're building up in the mind of the community your expertise on that subject matter. And they really trust you. They know that you are the Jamaican expert.
Spice aficionado.
Yeah. And notice, but you're not selling your restaurant. You're
Absolutely.
Not pitching.
Mm-hmm.
But they start to trust you. And guess what happens? A small percentage of them start to come in and visit. So that is content marketing that encourages people to come to your site, to give up their email, to follow you on Facebook, and by sharing that information, those recipes, those videos, those coupons, that's how you virally spread the reason why you should visit a website.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds to me, so when I'm blogging, and I think we need to be a little bit more specific about that, because just writing an article, where am I writing this article?
Go
ahead.
Yep. Well, you can either do it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. That's a place where you can write quick little stories and then mm-hmm. link back to your site. Mm-hmm. Or you could just set up a page on your website. That would be the second page. But once again, a second page is not much more to do. And you turn it on, and now every time you write a post, that becomes a part of your blog. And here's the beauty of a blog. Some people think blogging means you're writing about goofy stuff. Well, some people do write about goofy stuff, but as a business person, you're going to write about your expertise in home buying. You're going to write about your expertise in braiding hair. You're going to write about your expertise in cooking this type of meal, and you're building up your expertise. And when you write a quick story or share some photographs, guess what? You're going to have keywords inside of that paragraph that you wrote. And those keywords in that paragraph are going to get picked up by Google. Google, that search engine, is going to identify those words, and Google is going to help you get traffic. That's why blogging or writing every so often about your industry or your type of business is so vital to get people to find your site through a search engine.
Okay, so that's one way, writing articles. And there are blog sites out there. Some of them are industry related. If you're talking about cooking, there are cooking blog sites where you can actually post blogs or join or participate in posting information of use to that particular community. So depending on what industry you're in, there are blog sites for that as well as the more generic or general ones like Facebook. And all of those, as Mel is pointing out, are searchable. You know, there are top searches. When you go into Facebook, you can search by a keyword, as we're talking about. Everything is connected to this whole idea of keywords because that's what identifies you as a potential provider of that service or product. And Google recognizes that. Another way that you get businesses or customers to your business website is some of the free things like listings, having your local listing claiming. There's so many business listings that are out there that you can get for free, doing a Google Plus page and all of that. Can you speak to those issues as well?
Yeah, there is if you go to Google and type in the word local business or Google local business, Google small business, they have a lot of free resources to make people feel more comfortable with some of the baby steps and the free steps and the inexpensive or no charge things that you absolutely must do. And Google local business, just type that in and you'll find a whole bunch of stuff that could give you a little more comfort with those freebies that are out there.
Yeah, and one of the things that I instantly look at when I'm consulting with a new business is if you right-click on a picture, any kind of images, even the logos and things that they have, headlines and so forth, and you find how those images are named. So naming the images, and I'm trying to say this very simply as well because we're starting off simple and then we're going to get more sophisticated as we go on, but you need to name those images so that it again becomes a keyword searchable document or item on your website because they don't search pictures. Google and search engines don't pick up a picture.
Well,
go ahead.
No, you are talking about something that could be in a more advanced discussion, but you are hitting the nail on the head, and that is how some businesses come up higher in search results and beat out others. And what you're describing is taking that image or that photograph, and it's called an alt tag, A-L-T, an alt tag, and that's it. Really all you're doing is you're putting keywords inside the image so that Google can find that picture and those keywords, which will hopefully link back to your site. You see, a lot of people think that search engines are just about putting your title of your business there. But a more advanced way of getting found in Google would be what you just described, putting keywords, attaching keywords to photographs. And do you know what the other biggest, the second largest search engine in the world? This is usually a quiz. This is sort of a pop quiz, and I'm not going to put you in the corner here, but the second largest search engine in the world, of course, we all know the first one is Google, but the second largest search engine is YouTube.
Ah, there you go.
And that is why it's important to use YouTube in one way or another, because it's how people search. They look for websites, they look for video and images, and you really have to use all of that. And guess who owns YouTube? Guess who owns YouTube? Well, that answer would be Google. So it's kind of a
monopoly.
As you could probably tell, 60 minutes is not enough, but hopefully we'll whet the appetite of business owners and let them know that we understand their confusion because there is all of this stuff that needs to be demystified, but by ignoring it will allow somebody else to come in and take your place online.
Yeah. And I want to give an example of the naming of a picture. For instance, you mentioned, what was it, Joe's shoes? Somebody's shoes you mentioned in Wilmington. So if we use Joe Jones shoes or shoe repair, and he has pictures of shoes or items that he sells, accessories. Let's say it's a snap-on bow for a high heel shoe, if he sells accessories like that. And it's just listed as... sometimes you'll see pictures named AO123. It'll just have a number and some letters, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to the person looking at that. Doesn't mean anything to Google either. But if it said Joe Jones, black bow, snap-on bow, Joe Jones shoe repair or shoes with a snap-on black bow, then those are keywords that are going to be picked up when someone's saying, boy, I would love to put a black bow on my, high heel pump. So to speak.
Yeah, let me give you one more example of that photograph and the shoes. So what I would do is make sure the title was properly filled out, but the alt tag, ALT, that's a fancy code word for put keywords in there that Google can find and understand. So the keywords I would use would be Joe Murphy shoes, and then I would put the type of shoe, and since I just bought some Alan Edmonds shoes, I would put Alan Edmonds in there.
Correct.
And at least when Google is serving up some search engine results for images, you've got a pretty good chance that your picture shows up, and that if somebody clicks on it, they're one step closer to coming to your site, which is a shoe store site.
Yeah, that small tidbit of information I gave to one small business owner, and she was showing up on like pages 3 and 4 of the search results. So she wasn't doing actually too bad, but we all know that no one goes past page 1 most of the time, or maybe 2, but they certainly don't go to 3 and 4 when they're looking for something. And just that alone for her shop, teaching her how to rename and to prepare those alt tags so that they would be picked up from Google, got her on the first page. I mean, it just changed everything.
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons why when I build websites for clients, I always use WordPress because of its simplicity and that it makes it easy to put in these keywords. And WordPress is a content management system that makes it easy for small business to do this stuff that we're talking about today with no need for an IT or a technology geek.
So that brings me right into my next subject, which is DIY or outsource. Making that decision, do I do it myself or do I outsource it? A lot of these things are extremely confusing, even if you grasp it. And we're really all about educating you and helping you to understand at least the basics of what these media are and the technology behind them, just so that you can make an informed decision when you're even deciding to make, to outsource, to, have someone come in and do it for you. But if you have a basic knowledge, you are better in a better position to make an informed choice in terms of who you want to provide the service. But there are still some things that you can do yourself, and teaching you about those things is something that I've talked extensively about with Mel, and we are going to be coming up with some trainings, some webinars. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you were describing, it's tough for a small business to figure out whether they should just pay a lot of money to an outsider and let them handle it, or should they do it in-house. And the short answer is I believe that you should have somebody whoever builds the site for you, make sure when they set the site up that it's easy enough for you to change out the pricing, change out the hours that you're open, change out your phone number. You could do it yourself. Because if you rely too much on an outsider, a technology person, it'll be costing an awful lot to have them change things. And maybe you want to change things on a daily basis. Whatever decision you make, just make sure that it's easy enough for you to blog, to post a coupon, to be able to change out your special of the day. And sort of a hybrid model is what we recommend. And the hybrid is you get a professional to set it up, but while they're setting it up, they train you and provide tutorial videos where if you forget how to do that, click the button, watch the video, and now it refreshes your memory. And you and I are talking about doing some more of these tutorial videos and making them available to your audience sometime in the very near future.
Yeah. So in addition to the live events that we're going to be holding quarterly for Evolve, just teaching you how to evolve your business practices, especially the marketing side of it, and business development. We have the live events that will take place quarterly. We have the weekly radio program where you'll be able to take away certainly a couple of tips and techniques based on the discussion. And then we're going to have these online trainings, these online kind of virtual classroom sessions where you can actually learn various subject matter. Give some examples of those that we're talking about. We talked about SEO, search engine optimization. That would be one subject matter. Using social media, to help you generate more traffic to your website might be another. Learning WordPress, just the basics of WordPress.
Yes, if probably the one that I think you and I talked about was, how do you set up an email system? How do you decide on what type of email to use? Because you want to collect everybody's email address, and you want to be able to maybe send out a weekly newsletter. Maybe you want to send out a weekly update on your menu or your monthly newsletter on the calendar of events at your church. And what's the best way of doing that? Well, there's a couple of great companies out there like Aweber and Constant Contact, as well as MailChimp. But wouldn't it be great if all of a sudden I go, Carolyn, let's set up a email system for a new company you're putting together. Let's go to MailChimp and set it up. Maybe you and I should maybe record that process and let the listeners of your show today watch that process. That's kind of the way we see these online tutorials, these online videos play out. I'm not a teacher or a professor, but we really take a real-world situation and we record it in real time, and it's in high definition. You click it and you watch it. That kind of gives you a sense what Carol and I are talking about right now with these online video on-demand workshops for small business.
Right, and they're pretty short. We don't want them to be, 15, 20 minutes at the max, right? We talked about keeping them short and to the point because we know our small business owners don't have a lot of time.
Well, actually, the way they're broken up is in 5-minute videos. So, hey, how do you set up a MailChimp account? Click here, and in 5 minutes, you get the whole run-through of how to set up MailChimp. Hey, Mel, how do you set up a GoDaddy? I need a domain name or a website address. Click here. In 5 minutes, we run through the whole process, and you get to watch and listen. Mm-hmm. So everything's about 5 or 6 minutes apiece.
And what is the website so that people can kind of register to get involved with that?
Yes, I set up a special place for listeners of your show today to pop their email address in and get some freebies and get connected with the stuff that we're going to be working on. Go to getsmartdigital.com. So that website address, again, is getsmartdigital.com. And you will see right in the middle of the page a place where you can pop in your email address. And what we're going to do is send you links to some videos we've already produced, and we're also going to give you private insider access to some of the stuff that Carolyn and I talked about today. Mm-hmm. And you'll be up to date on all the stuff that we're working on. And once again, that is getsmartdigital.com. Just pop your email address in there, and then just confirm that you truly want to be on this list. There's no spam. We're not going to throw junk mail at you. And that's how we'll get started.
That sounds great. That's really, really exciting because I can see that being a wonderful resource and something they can do whenever they have that extra 5 minutes, while they're having their morning coffee. Let me figure out how to do this. Let's click on the link, and now let's learn something new today. I would make that if it were me, and I intend to use some of the videos that you've put together, just to sit down in the morning and do that. Make that something I do at, 9:05 every morning, and then 5 minutes later, I've got maybe acquired a new skill, or at least I have a better understanding of some of the functionality that may help my business. One of the last things I want to talk about during the rest of the show would be how do I know? How do I measure, I guess, the profit or return on investment when it comes to some of the digital strategies out there? I know that there are different types of analytics out there, and that can get a little confusing for a small business owner. Even reading some of those reports sometimes can get a little crazy. But the bottom line is, how much traffic are you generating? How many are you converting to paying customers? And how many are retaining in terms of getting them to come back or refer your business? Would you agree with that?
Well, all of those are relevant performance metrics or ways of tracking what you're trying to accomplish. Let me just say this. It all depends on the business and what they want to do. So some businesses don't care how many people come to the site. They don't care how many page views. They don't care if you come back. You know why? Because maybe, just maybe, all they wanted to do was capture your email address. Maybe they just wanted to have you watch the video. Maybe they just wanted you to download that coupon and redeem it. Those are conversions that are trackable. In other words, let me give you some more conversions. Number one is, how many people pop their email address in there? Like you and I are going to track how many people listening today went online to getsmartdigital.com and put their email address in there. That is a performance metric. That's how we track the success of what we're trying to accomplish. And quite frankly, we don't really care about unique users and how many people came back. We just want to know, do people trust us to put their email address in there? That's one way of tracking success. Number two is, how many people downloaded a coupon if we had a coupon? How many people watched this brand new tutorial video we just did? We can track that. Those are performance metrics, and those are made up based on what you and I think are important. So when you hear a geek say analytics and all that, sometimes that stuff's important, but probably it's not important to a small business. A small business cares about, how many email addresses did I get? How many people watched my video? How many people downloaded my menu? Those are trackable metrics or performance metrics that are important to a small business. And so we urge you not to get too caught up with all that you can do with the web, but just exactly what you need to happen for yourself as a small business.
That's really good. That makes a lot of sense, and hopefully easily understood. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about is, as a small business owner, a lot of them, because they're, it's crunch time. The economic environment has been tough on a lot of people, and they want to know, okay, I'm going to invest this with you today, X dollars. How long is it going to take before I even begin to see results? Obviously, the answer is varied, because there are certain things that you can do where you can see results immediately. There are other media and opportunities where it may take, 4 to 6 months. There are other things that could take as much as a year, especially when it comes to things like looking at a PPC program or SEO or things like that. Oops, I said a PPC. See, I came out with an acronym. I forgot to keep it simple. But you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
So how can you speak to that in terms of how long it takes to actually see results if I were a business owner?
Well, once again, what is the metric? What are we tracking as our sign of success or failure? And if your goal is to build up a new lunchtime crowd for your restaurant, all you want to do is get people to come in to your restaurant at lunchtime, because you never really were open for lunch, but now you're going to do it. How long will it take for you to see success there? Well, the first thing I would do is make sure that people downloaded the menu and downloaded that coupon. Buy one, get one, try us out for lunch. Something like that. Now you say, well, that costs money. Well, of course it does, but if you were to spend money anywhere else to promote, it would cost substantially more. With the web, the beauty of the web is that even if you make a horrible mistake, it doesn't bankrupt you. And you can make a lot of mistakes and keep changing things quickly. So when you ask me the question, how long will it take? Well, it truly depends on whether you're trying to do something simple, like build up your lunchtime crowd, or something much more advanced, like, how long will it take before I can become a company with 50 employees and move into Center City, Wilmington, with a big, giant business? It really depends, but my recommendation is to do something small. And one of the smallest things you can do is build up a list of people that love your product or are interested in your product, and that is gold. That is gold, because they've already identified themselves as somebody interested in your service or product, or somebody that already likes you. And chances are, you as a small business, you don't have a database or a collection of customer email addresses that you know love your product or are interested in your product. That's a good first step.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the last things to talk about on today's show, since we're just hitting a few areas, is one suggestion that I made to a lot of retailers in slow or economically depressed areas is that if you don't have a website and you don't have an e-commerce function or feature on your website, you're missing an opportunity to add another revenue stream. Can you speak a little bit about e-commerce and how important that can be for a small business that's trying to generate traffic to the bricks and mortar store but still struggling?
Well, you mentioned that some of the economically depressed areas may not have computers and big monitors, but almost everybody walks around with a smartphone, and that smartphone is on the web. And when you build a website today, usually they look pretty good on a smartphone. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to e-commerce, that typically that means conducting some kind of a financial transaction, somebody buying something. And there are tools out there online services out there, I should say, that you don't pay anything until somebody buys. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good thing. Now, granted, you don't make as much money, but there's no risk up front. So once again, if you're trying to sell something online, there are plenty of services out there that allow you to spend no money up front, but then that company takes a bigger cut of the payment once somebody buys. And that's a good way to start. Mm-hmm. And that's a great way to get started. And maybe sometime in the future you stop doing that. But that's a great way of starting e-commerce with no money out of pocket. And once again, these are the kind of tips and the tutorials and workshops that Carolyn and I are working on. And just head up to getsmartdigital.com and pop your email address in there. You'll see a place to put it in there, because some of these topics that we're trying to squeeze into this 1 hour, you can tell that we have to figure out a way of getting all this knowledge into a compact form, bite-sized online video snacks.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we'll continue to cover them, each Sunday at 1 p.m. When we open the show, we'll talk about a specific topic and try to dig in as deeply as we can with the various experts that we have on the show. But that's the goal here. The goal is to provide you with a resource that you don't, at this point or before this point, didn't have access to, where we can actually walk you step by step and help you understand that it's a scary world, but not so scary. It's really not that bad. There are things out there that you can do, and there are technologies that you don't need to know the ins and outs of, but you can still benefit from. And that's the goal. Would you agree with that, Mel? That's the goal.
Yep, doing nothing is not an option.
Right, absolutely. My last comment to you, Mel, is that if there's one last thing that you'd like to leave the audience with in terms of a point or a tip, what would be the thing that you think they could implement immediately? Say tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. I've listened to this show. And we may have already talked about it. What things should they do first?
Number one, check out how you look online. If somebody wants to buy your product or service, pretend that you're a consumer looking online for your product and service. See how you show up. See how good you look compared to your competitors. Also do that. Go to your competitor's website and see what they're doing. So you got to see how good you look amongst your competitors. Mm-hmm. How bad you look, how good you look. Fix the stuff that's killing you first before you implement some of the positive things that Carolyn and I talked about today.
Wow, that's great. I can't imagine anything better than that. I mean, you have to start where the consumers start. You do, as you have mentioned before, put yourself into the position of the person that's looking for your products. Otherwise, you'll never get their perspective. And you mentioned mobile technology, which is so important. The text messaging, which is another subject that we really haven't gotten into. We haven't talked a lot about Twitter. There's some other social media that we haven't really talked about, and its ability to lead customers to your website. And again, everything goes back to the website, and all of this is keyword driven. So understanding how to make the best selections, as relates to the keywords that are going to best highlight what you have to offer. When Google is out there, it's kind of Big Brother. It's almost become like Big Brother watching. But the idea is to be able to, they talk about the word algorithm. And an an algorithm basically is just, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mel, but I see it as a formula or a recipe for the way that Google or search engines look at what you have to offer and what people are looking for on the internet. Would you agree with that?
That's exactly what an algorithm is. It's just, maybe another way of describing it is, Google wants to make sure that when they connect that consumer and that business, they want to make sure that it's probably a good mix, and they have an algorithm or a secret formula on how they determine, are you the right website to put in front of that consumer searching? Mm-hmm. Because really, it makes Google look bad if that algorithm didn't work properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about customer experiences, which is another big thing that I talk about in person with businesses. When you finally get that customer in your store, if it's bricks and mortar, or to your website, or to call you on the phone, what is their experience like, and how can you optimize that? That's what Google does also. They're concerned with customer experiences, because if people start going to other search engines because they're not happy with the results, and my goodness, Google has even changed dramatically the way the results are even reported now, as a way to make their search engine better than all the others. And of course, by and large, they are number one, but they're still trying to get better and improve the experience that consumers have when searching for products and services through their site. But it's just, if do you want to talk a little bit about customer experiences and the importance of that, and then we're going to close the show, and we'll be on for the rest of the afternoon to all the other things that we like to do on a Sunday.
Are you giving me a few more moments here?
I'm going to give you just a couple more minutes. I'm seeing now that we have about a minute or so left, so you can give some additional contact information for your company. We're so happy that you were able to join us today, and then I'll close with my my contact information.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Remember, if you want to have more information and have access to tutorials, we have a whole bunch of how to get started with WordPress, how to optimize your images, how to use Picasa, which is Google's photo editing free service. All those videos will be made available to the listeners today just by going to getsmartdigital.com, and then you'll be on our email list. And we will never spam you, but we want to share information with you, and because we live by the directives that we're trying to share with you, and that is content marketing. We share information for free in the hopes that some people will say, hey, we want to hire these folks for something. And that's kind of the way the internet economy works, because Google does an awful lot of things for free, but then they also know how to get you to buy something from them in the future. And that's their business model, which is certainly appropriate, and that's called content marketing. So in closing, just make sure, number one, you look good online, making sure that someone looking for your business likes what you got. And number two, all your current customers that come into your store and then leave, are you asking them for their email address?
Very good.
You got to do that, because they're your best customers, and they just give you an email address. Every person that walks in, just ask for that, and get an Excel spreadsheet and put it in that form. Use something like a MailChimp, and you will thank Carolyn and me for that one simple tip.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Get the email addresses of your best customers, and then grow your list from there using new customers or future customers that you were unaware of.
Mm-hmm. Well, that about does it for this edition of eVolution Strategies. Starting next week, we'll be inviting you to call into the show and ask questions of our experts. We hope that we've imparted some advice and tips that you can use in your business, hopefully starting tomorrow. You can also listen to archived shows at www.evolutionstrategiesradio.com. Or if you have questions, you can always call me at 302-300-1003. That's 302-300-1003. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward